All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you for being patient tonight. We've had some technical difficulties, needless to say, to have to change some things up at the last minute. But once again, thank you for your patience. Have a fun night tonight. Cody Smith is with us tonight. Sadly, Brandon was not able to join us. We had some connectivity issues, either through us, because I'm horrible with this stuff, or on Brandon's end. And also, apparently, Todd has lost his internet at some point between this afternoon and tonight. So you're stuck with me. Um, but got a lot of stuff to cover tonight, and hopefully we'll kind of stumble our way through it. And we're going to talk about the Cup Series from Monday night, which is at Loudon. A very dominating race by a particular driver we all know and love. And then we have the Truck Series tonight, which just wrapped up a little while ago, and a lot of fun action that went with that. As usual, the Truck Series is a fun series, as we like to put it, but competitive, but definitely a lot of fun, and some interesting stuff happened tonight. So we'll go over it all here in just a little bit. But first of all, I want to talk to our guest tonight, Cody Smith, and hopefully we get to know him a little bit better. And I guess we'll just start off with the easy question there, Cody, is how did you get started in iRacing or sim racing in general? And just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, as far as actual racing or video game racing, I guess I did the whole PlayStation. I believe it was NASCAR '98 when I started. Um, that it those console games, as everyone knows, are just not that good, especially once you figure them out and you just dominate everybody. The computer, that is. I believe I saw an ad with Dale Jr. or something about iRacing. And I looked into it. I was like, man, that'd be a really cool thing to be able to do. I couldn't do it at the time. I believe 2015, I was actually able to get a cheap gaming computer and already had a wheel. So I joined iRacing then, and it's been, I guess the rest is history, huh?
Yeah, yeah, sounds very familiar to my path. So what's your favorite series to do on iRacing? I know obviously you come over here, I believe, through NIS, stuff like that. Is that your favorite series, or do you have a different series you like to have fun with outside of the Cup stuff?
Yeah, I would say NIS is probably my favorite. I like the longer races. I wouldn't mind doing uh, some open set stuff, but I'm just not good at making the sets, and it's no fun for me to go over there and just get destroyed because my set's awful. So I stick with the fix. Normally the NIS, I do run the A, B, and C series every now and then if I get bored.
Mhm.
But mostly what I'll run the league, and then run NIS Thursday night and Sunday night normally. Um, so it pretty much fills up the whole week. I don't have much time to get on every single night. I don't get off work till around 7, so it's later in the night normally when I get home. So um, obviously would like to have more time to run some more stuff and maybe even look at some more road stuff. I've thought about trying to do that, but that's a um, whole nother task to take on that I really don't want to put that much time into right now. So maybe one day.
Hey, I'm right there with you. I'm at the point now where I'm lucky I get in the 24 hours of Daytona every year, and then as far as road's concerned, I might have one or two races here, and that's about it. So I can understand that, but for that matter, my whole official career is about that way. So I noticed one of the things. Obviously, we're friends on Facebook and stuff. You're a big volunteer fan. I believe you are from Tennessee. So what got you started into the volunteers?
Well, I'm not actually from Tennessee. My family is originally from Tennessee. I
Okay.
was born in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I've lived here in Lebanon, Ohio, which is about a half hour or so north of Cincinnati, of downtown Cincinnati, for my whole life. Not that there's never going to be a time that I live in Tennessee, because that's kind of the goal eventually. But we'll see if life takes me there. I love it down there. But yeah, my whole just basically brought up a Tennessee fan. And been stuck there the whole time. It's been a rough decade and a half here, to be a Tennessee fan. I won't lie there. Um, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if we can get it turned around.
Well, see, now I have to ask you because I'm a UVA fan. We've gotten to the point, and Dad will attest to this, where we just count the day, and he's doing it. We just count the days to basketball season because that's the only thing we're really good at least of the major sports. Have you? I don't know how good the basketball team is. I do remember us beating you guys last year, but um, but I slipped that in there. But I mean, is football the main sport you get into, college football, or is there any other sports you get into through the year?
Yeah, football's definitely the main sport, my favorite sport to watch. I do enjoy basketball. I do root for Tennessee basketball. They're not a great program. When they had Bruce Pearl for a few years, they were up and coming and coming up, but he decided to lie to the NCAA, and they made an example of him. So it is what it is. He what was I going to say? Yeah, the basketball part's real tough. Like I said, I'm born and raised in Cincinnati, so I'm also a UC Bearcat fan. I
Okay.
actually went to school at UC, so I do have them for basketball a little bit as well to root for. So it's not too bad. I got my teams in both sports, I guess.
There you go. Yeah, they're actually the Bearcats are doing pretty well the past couple years in basketball. But so speaking of college and stuff like that, what do you do for a living?
I actually just started a new job. I am a telesales. I'm basically a cable salesman over the phone. A small company, a regional company called Cincinnati Bell. We do cable, internet, and home phone services. Yeah, I call people all day. Actually, I'm in the retention department. I call people all day and tell them their bill's going up. So they always love it. Yeah, and we basically get paid on how much extra we can get out of the customer, which is kind of a cool. It's not too bad of a gig. It's just a little bit not the easiest calls to make every day.
You and Duel could work together. He could go out there and do the calls, and then when he messes it up, you can call him, let him know, hey, your rate's going up because our technician messed up. I mean, I think it works out pretty well, really. I mean,
oh yeah, trust me, I hear how bad the technicians are all day long as anyway. So just adding Duel in, I mean, that would be.
I only say that because I realize that he's on the chat right now talking with Alan. So I'll probably be hearing about that in about 2 seconds. But with that being said, enough poking fun at Duel. Thank you, Cody, for being on. Thank you, Cody, for being on tonight and helping me out in a pitch here. We're going to go ahead and move on to the Cup Series results. We were at Loudon last night. It's a very interesting race. I know, the second round of the chase for the Challenger round, and it's getting down to it. You and I, Cody, are both towards the cut line. We're kind of battling to try to crawl our way out of it. And let's go ahead and look at the results from last night, and I'll try to pull those up here for you quicker. So basically, Matt Busa took the win last night in dominating fashion. If you're at the race last night, it was a good trouncing. Everybody got lapped. Fayez tried to hold on as best he could, but eventually he just had to succumb to what is known as Busa. So he was able to take the win last night, as I mentioned. Second place went to Andrew Fayez, who really did have a solid run, save for Busa being around. And then rounding out your top five was Guillermo in third. Fourth place went to our guest tonight, Cody Smith. And then rounding out the top five was Adam de Blasio. At one point during the race there, I know, Cody, you and I were battling pretty hard, and Adam was battling with you as well. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your race from last night and kind of how it propelled you into where you are in the standings, which we'll look at here in a minute.
Yeah, like you said, we're both kind of, or we're on the outside looking in. So I came into last night, and I think I've said it before. Loudon is one of my favorite tracks, one of my best tracks, and I looked at it as definitely an opportunity to get a top five and maybe even fight for a win. And until I saw Busa show up, and in practice he was 0.3 better than everybody. And as you can see on the results, he was an average of 0.2 faster than the field average lap. So that's insane as well. Yeah, he was just gone. The fact that he can lap everybody in the field, including another in-pass driver, it's not even fair. But anyway, everyone else was racing their own race without him. And I know me, you, and Adam, we were in a little bit of a hairy situation there at one point. I knew coming into this race that I needed to be aggressive, and that and I was. I know I watched the broadcast back, and Ward said 3 or 4 times, "Man, I don't think he should be that aggressive, or he needs to rethink those moves." And not that he was wrong, but at that point I was like I said, I took that mentality into the race, and it paid off. There were probably a couple spots where it could have ended badly. Some people probably gave me a break here and there, but hey, it all worked out. And sometimes you got to do what you got to do when it gets down to these things. Yeah, I do know basically our little incident that we had with me, you, and Adam. I knew me and Adam had just pitted or a few laps before that, and I knew when he was trying to get around you was going to be my best opportunity to get around him as well. And I knew if I got around him, it would be hard for him to get back in front of me. So there was a spot where me and you were on the outside, and there was just barely enough room for my car to get down in front of Adam. And then I halfway blew the corner. Adam got underneath me, and I think I pushed you up a little bit. But get another spot where everyone kind of made it out, and it kind of worked out, I guess.
Yeah, it was definitely some tense times. I knew I'd pitted a few laps before you guys, and I knew you'd eventually get around me. I wasn't exactly ready for it to be that way. So it did kind of take me by surprise, but that's part of racing. And as far as my night concerns, I couldn't save tires to save my life. And I pitted at the same time Duel did, and I did better than him at saving tires, I guess. But that didn't say much for the rest of the guys who were on 20-lap pressure tires than I was. So it was a struggle. If we had another caution, which I think is what Duel and I were banking on, then we would have been a little bit better off, or at least a little bit more competitive. Because on a shorter run, I can hang in top 5, that general area. But in a longer run, I was just kind of out to lunch. But that was basically Loudon there. What we're going to do now is look at our chase standings, which are really tight. I'm going to have to do a lot more math next week to see how we're doing for Dover. But we'll pull that up there. And basically, Caleb Eisenhower is going to be locked in, obviously, with his win from last week at Chicago. Guillermo, Eric, and Adam are the top 4 there. They have more than 30 points to the good. I think really everybody down to, I would say, even Hudson and above are relatively safe. The guys from Trago on back, and Trago has to have trouble, I think, to be perfectly honest. But the guys from there on back are in the danger zone, depending on how many cars we have going into Dover, which for my case, I hope there's lots of them because I need to put gaps in between some of these guys. But if you look there, obviously the cut line is at you, Cody. You have a 3-point gap between yourself and Joshua Campbell, who had some issues last night with connection issues, I should say. And if I remember correctly, he was able to get a couple of his laps back, and then he had some more connection issues, which is unfortunate. And then myself is 1 point behind him, and then Nick and Alan round out the group there, but they're only 8 points back of the cut line as well. So it's definitely going to be a challenging night, Monday night. A lot of nail biting. How do you look at your chances there at Dover? Or how do you usually race at Dover there, Cody? And do you see yourself making it to the next round?
Yeah, I do enjoy Dover. It's one of those places where I always seem to either finish really well or crash out. I think a lot of people are probably like that. It's one of those places where it's very hard to avoid something if it happens in front of you. Everything happens very quick. The car's normally a handful to drive. It's a blast to drive at Dover. I love driving there. I like my chances to make it, but again, I think you hit it on the head because I think a lot of it's going to depend on how many people actually show up, by how many points you can gain or lose by having good or bad fortune. So That's going to have a lot to do with it. But just like last week, I expect all the chase drivers to be kind of jammed together in a pack and duking it out. It'll be a blast if nothing else.
Yeah, I mentioned it, and I'll say it again tonight. I mentioned it this morning. Basically, from third to 17th was all chase drivers, with the exception of Joseph Yates, who I believe finished 13th or 14th, somewhere in there. And when you're all stacked up like that, it's hard to gain any positions or anything. I was trying really hard to beat. I think somebody posted. I was trying to beat Nick to the line for ninth to get that point. I accidentally got into Todd earlier in the race, which is my fault, and that cost me the 2 points I needed uh, you know, for the clean driver. And so, 3 points there might be the difference between me making the cut line and not. So hopefully that doesn't come to bite me in the rear come Monday night. But it's definitely going to be a challenge to make it into that next round, because if you look at the guys from what we showed earlier, there's no easy outs there. There just really isn't. These guys are here for a reason, and it's going to be difficult. So speaking of difficult, I do have a few. This is usually where Todd so nicely transitions me into it and just makes me look all good before I destroy everyone's hopes and dreams. But I do have some announcements for tonight. We've been talking about this between the admins and I for quite a while, in terms of pro drivers and rule sets and stuff to address that for next year. I said it was coming down the line. I said it was be in place before the end of this season, so there would be plenty of time for people to get that addressed. So tonight is the night we're going to announce it, for better or worse. I have a nice little, if I'll pull it up here, I will try to go over it one by one and kind of explain things out and the reasoning for it. It's kind of one of these things where some people might be happy, some people might not be, but it's one of these deals where you're not going to be able to please everyone. And we just tried to come up with the most fair and logical way of doing this as we could. So without further ado, let me go ahead and see if I can pull this up and kind of go over it with you. So this is all of these things, just to preface, all these things are for next year. So the start of the 2018 season. So we'll go ahead and pull that up. So you see right at the top there, hopefully it is big enough. And if not, I can try to make it larger if I remember how. Maybe. But basically what it says is that next year we'll have an iRating cap of 6,500. That'll be across the board for both series. And it's basically, like I said, everything that we did was the admins agreed to. So 6,500 across the board. With that being said, the 3 pros that are currently below the cap will be grandfathered in. Okay, that would be Fayash, Busa, and Rattler. All 3 of those are currently under that cap, and all of them have basically been here for at least, well, obviously in Fayash and Busa's case, they've been here for multiple years. And then in Rattler's case, he was here for the majority of the season. And once again, it's below that iRating cap. So if a member becomes a pro after 2017, they will be grandfathered in as long as they have run 1 full season in the league prior to turning pro. So, for example, and I'm not saying any of these people would go pro or not. Say, for example, Caleb, who has an iRating of 6,300, decides next year he wants to go pro. He will be grandfathered in because he ran a full season this year before being eligible for pro, if he happens to make it. The same thing would apply for Adam de Blasio, for example. So number 4 on here, and hopefully you are able to read this, but no pros will be eligible after this season unless grandfathered in, and then reference note 2 and 3 for that. So this is the main thing behind this is trying to find a balance. It's not that I don't like pros. It's not, I'm usually, my stance is, to try to have the best competition in here. And those of you, myself included, who, are not able to win and stuff, kind of you got to raise your bar. But I think in this instance, you have guys who come in and, who are able to rattle off 5, 6 wins in a row. And we're worried about changing the dynamic of how the league is. If you get too many, and no offense to pros, but if you get too many pros in, it changes the dynamic of the league that we are looking to put forward for everyone. And so we have to manage that at some point. And this is an issue that hasn't come up till this year, to be perfectly honest, at least not in a major form. So with that being said, the 3 pros that are grandfathered in, since, we want them to have a reason to race here and something to go after, and not be a quote unquote test session, as some people have put it. Busa, Fayesh, and Rattler will be eligible for any and all championship and prizes next season. This season, they haven't been eligible for the championship, for the Cup Series, or the Truck Series. We're going to change that next year. We're going to go back. There are just 3 of them. So, that once again, there has to be some type of balance. Also, next year, the Integrity Racing League will change the minimum in which it takes for somebody to be applied into the league. So we'll go up to a 1400 I rating as the minimum, and then you have to have a C class license and above. So C4, C4.0 and above in order to be eligible for either of the series. Driver's acceptance will be based on I rating at the start of the season or when the application has been filed. So either one of those is when we're going to be looking if you are below the I rating cap, or if you meet the minimum requirements that we're setting up. And then from 2018 on, new applicants for the Truck Series will be required to run 7 races before being considered to move up into the Cup Series. This is being done basically, we've done it to some degree here at the end of this year, but we really want to make sure that the drivers who come in here are the right fit for us, and then vice versa. We want to make sure that they enjoy racing here and they think it's the right fit, and we want you to have that time to be able to make it and are able to go up in the Cup Series, and hopefully the transition will be rather seamless. The other main thing I want to mention here, and I'm going to scroll this down a little bit and hopefully it'll scroll down with me. We're only doing this once. So this isn't going to be a, well, so-and-so, whether it's Busa or whoever, so-and-so won 5 races in a row, you need to change this. We're not changing it anymore. This isn't going to be, we're changing it at the whim of, if somebody complains enough or anything like that. This is something that the admins have been discussing for months, plural, probably as far back as, June, if not before then. This is something we finally come to that's fair, it's logical, and unless something extreme, and I mean really extreme, happens, we're not changing it. So this gives you time to understand it and understand the parameters you'll be racing under for next year. As far as the 7 races for the Truck Series for new drivers, this Truck Series, keep in mind, is starting earlier this year. It'll be starting right after the new year. And basically, if you're a new member and you run the first 7 races of the new year, you can move right into the Cup Series without missing a race. So that kind of works out pretty well. That's the major announcement. I'll be posting the basic requirements and the list that I show here. Now I'll be posting that on the Facebook page after the show or early tomorrow morning, so that everybody has it. But this is going to be pretty much the deal for next year. Hopefully this balances some of your concerns. That we do listen, whether you believe it or not. But hopefully this balances it out some and covers both sides of the spectrum in terms of trying to have a good balance of competitive racing, because we have that in spades, but also clean racing as well. So we wanted to address both of those things at the same time, and hopefully that, if you have questions, obviously ask. I'm more than willing to discuss it and explain why we went down the road we do. But I don't want to get too terribly long-winded with it here. But that's basically where we're at. So, like I said, if you would like to reference it, I'll reference it, or have questions, I'll share it with you guys later tonight. So, speaking of trucks, what we're going to do now is we're going to kind of transition in my typical slow way to the truck series, which just ended up a little bit earlier tonight at Talladega. There were some surprises throughout tonight's race. I posted a couple videos before we went live here tonight. It was a fun race. As I mentioned before, the truck series is the fun series where it's much more relaxed than the Cup side of things, which is intentional. So we had some fun. Had, like I said, a couple surprises. What I'll go ahead and do is post the results from the truck series tonight. And Eric de Blasio was able to come away with the win. He had a great battle between Eric, Lance, who came in second, Greg Trago, who came in third. Alan Roll came in fourth, was battling for the win with a couple laps to go, and just couldn't quite get there. He was alongside up next to Eric, trying to take the lead with 2 to go. Couldn't quite get it done, but he comes in fourth, and then rounding out your top 5 is Jay Heichman, who made an appearance in the truck series tonight. Cody, obviously you're running for the championship still for the Chase and the Truck Series, as am I. Why don't you tell us about your race tonight, and kind of give us a little synopsis of how you think your Chase Series is going so far?
Yeah, that was a wild one tonight. As you can tell by the results, everybody's a lap down
Yeah.
again, and that was not because Busa lapped the whole field. Yeah, it was. The trucks are very, very sensitive if you bump in the corners, and that caused a lot of mayhem. I did it once. I know I hit Dunn. There was some lap traffic on the bottom. We were 3 wide. He moved up just probably a half a lane or so, and I was off the gas. I watched the replay. I was about a quarter throttle, trying to stay off of him, but I touched his left rear and wrecked a vast majority of the field at that point, because we were battling for the lead there. So that is what it is. I kind of limped around and still finished in the top 10, which is I was happy for that after I was wrecked. But before I got wrecked, I believe that was, I don't know, it was early-ish in the race. Before I got wrecked, it was a blast. I mean, these trucks are fun to draft with. You can run 3 wide. They don't bog down on the top like the Cup cars do. They have to be the best of the 3 main series, the A, B, and C car, in the draft. I wish the Cup car could draft like that, because it's a ton of fun. But it does lead to some very close pack racing, and as you saw tonight, some crashes that pretty much wipe out the whole field. But as far as the chases or overall goes, this series, there's something about it. I feel like I run up front the whole race, and then I look and I end up finishing 5 spots behind where I ran the whole race. It's like every single race. The tire strategy, where we only have the 3 pit stops, comes into play. I can never seem to be on the right side of that. Just something always happens. It's funny how these races end, for me at least, in this series. But the series is a blast, and I like my chances to at least make it past this round. I'm on right on the cut line again, I believe, by a few points. So that should be fun. Hey, we're out here to race, so wherever I'm gonna go out and give it all I got and see what happens. It's basically just a fun league anyway. So,
Yeah, luckily I've not followed your path as far as the cut line for the truck series, and based on the happenings of tonight, I'm really happy about that. Yeah, as far as Talladega goes for tonight, it was fun, definitely a lot of fun and relax. It was nice to relax at Talladega and not be gripping the steering wheel to death, trying to make it through wrecks and all that stuff, worried about moving on to the next round. I enjoyed. I have a nice video of it, a couple of them. I enjoyed trying to get Alan to win tonight. I think I ended up 12th or something like that. We were trying to get Hudson up there to get him a win for the Chase, for the truck series. But like you said, for whatever reason, and it happened a few times tonight, and in the most awkward of places, I thought. Like I spun done by himself. It was just us two, and we're just poking along, and all of a sudden he's spinning off the front of my hood there. So, which is unfortunate. We had a couple incidents like that, and had a lot of trucks tonight, which was great to see again. I think we actually had more trucks or more entries in the truck series than we did the Cup series this week, which is both good and bad. But I'll take the good for the truck series. And you're right, for the drafting model, it's great until you get that area where it just hooks one way or the other, and you don't even think you're really doing anything. And then somebody's around and it collects everybody behind you. But like I said, it's going to be a great. I guess I'm trying to think. Our next race for the truck series will be at, and I wrote it down. I had it written down. Our next, it'll be Milwaukee. That's what it is. We'll be going there next week, and I think that's the next race, next cutoff race. I didn't have time with all the stuff going on to update the standings for the Chase series. Just know they're tight. They're very close. And it's going to be another deal where I believe Matthew Wright didn't have a very good night tonight. So I think he has a pretty big deficit to where he might have to win again in order to transfer on. As you said, Cody is on the cut line, and you have a couple other guys that did very well tonight. Both Lance Jennels and Greg Trago had top 5 finishes. So that pressure that we all felt at New Hampshire in the truck series, I think will transfer over to the other mile track at Milwaukee next week when people are trying to move to the next round, which should be pretty interesting to see, to steal a Nick Ward line. But like I said, for the Cup Series, we'll be going to Dover next week. That'll be a cutoff race as well, as we'll be going from 16 to 12, which we've kind of digested for tonight. And then, like I mentioned before, we'll be going to Milwaukee for the Truck Series, which will be a cutoff race as well. It's getting late, so I want to thank Cody for stepping in quickly and joining us tonight. It was definitely good to have you and saving me from having to do the show by myself. I want to say hopefully Todd will have his internet restored for next week and be able to run the show like it's supposed to be run. And then hopefully Brandon Six will be able to join us sometime later, either next week or in a week thereafter, and we'll kind of get some stuff figured out with him so he could be on the show with us as well. Once again, thank you for joining us for this week in the Integrity Racing Show, and we hope to see you next week. You'll have a great night.